All right, so finally, I want to wrap up with some new material that wasn't covered, or at least hasn't been covered well in the lecture videos that you've gone through. And I think the best thing to do here is, or at this point in time, is to just look at some actual database management systems. Just by seeing them, you get a sense of kind of what they're used for. And then talk a little bit about what the differences are between some of them. So this is the material I want you to take notes on because this will be on the quiz, some of this. So I want you to know what some of the common ones are, and then I want you to know kind of what the differences are between some of them. So we're going to divide this up into a couple types. We're going to talk about ones that would be considered more desktop database management systems that small organizations would have. And these would be the type that you would just kind of run like a typical application on like one single computer, just something relatively small where you can just save files and open files just like you normally do. And then we're going to talk about enterprise ones, so big business database management systems that are distributed across big networks. And lots of people share them. So let's start by looking at the desktop ones. And I'm going to start with the most common one, and that would be something that you've all seen. We actually looked at a minute ago, and that's Microsoft Access. I don't need to introduce too much about this. I'll jump over to it. But the database we just looked at, this was Microsoft Access. So it comes with Microsoft Office. So anybody who has Office has Microsoft Access, and it works a lot like other Office applications, right? Matter of fact, these even almost look like mini spreadsheets, right? But there's a lot of functionality in here that's not in a spreadsheet. So you're reviewing some of the table data, but we can also do things like search through that table data, run queries and reports and things like that. So Office, there's a view of Microsoft Office. Again, all of you have seen this. But there are others as well. So there are lots of free ones out there, lots of desktop database management systems. I'm going to show you one, the free one that we'll probably use in this class. It's called, what's the official title here? DB Browser. DB Browser Lite. So let me show you that one. This is it. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. It's not letting me make this any bigger, so this might look a little small on your screen. But it's fairly straightforward. It looks a little bit like Microsoft Access, and we've got some database with some tables in it. So in this case, it's some movie data. We've got a table called movie, a table called rating, a table called reviewer. We can go browse the data in the tables. So here's some movie data that we have. Let's see, we've got some rating data. People gave some ratings to the movies on different dates. And we've got the reviewers who actually made those ratings, so the names of some reviewers. So a really small database with just a few tables. But you get the idea. It looks a lot like Microsoft Access. Okay, and we can manage all of that data. We can actually go into each table, decide what type of things we want to store in that table. So in the movie table, we have several things like the title and the year and the director. We can manage what goes into the tables here. We can browse the data, and then we can also come over and actually use this SQL language to actually run queries to search the data and say, show me only the movies that get a certain rating by a certain reviewer, something like that. Okay, so that's another one. That's DB Browser for SQLite. And that title, back to that title, starts to give you a little bit of a hint about some concept that's common in databases. And that's that a database, when you work with a database, you're actually usually working with two different things. And it's not so obvious in Microsoft Access because it's kind of all tied together, but you're almost always working with the actual application. We usually draw it like this. Okay, represents the database management system itself, the thing that stores and organizes and does all the work of just keeping all of that data together and has all the functionality for getting at that data. You kind of have a database management system itself. Okay, and then we have some other application. Again, can kind of all be tied together in one, but usually under the hood, it's kind of separate. We've got some other app that we use that's kind of the thing we use to view all of the data in that database management system and get access to it, query it, that type of thing. So you could call that a browser, like this is called the DB browser for SQLite, or it's in the end, it's some sort of app for viewing the data, sending queries to the data. So this is basically our interface. This is the thing we look at, that we type things into and we click buttons on, that actually works with the database management system. We type in something where we say, only show me certain data, or show me, filter data. That sends a message to the database management system, and it sends back just the data that meets the criteria that we set. Okay, so this is often considered like a client application. Okay, that we're using this client to view the data. And again, in many cases, like really both of these, it's kind of all appears like it's all one thing because it's kind of tied together. But in the end, we're using this browser to view some database management system. In this particular application I just showed you, SQLite is the name of the database management system. Okay, so that's SQLite, the actual name of the database management system, and we're using this browser that's viewing that. Okay, it kind of all comes in one package in this case, but there are kind of two separate parts to it. Okay, so then that kind of, there are many more desktop ones. But I wanted you to be aware of what those are and what a desktop is. Again, it's kind of one that runs on just your own kind of personal computer, and you can just save files and send them to other people, and they can open them up on their computer. But like other desktop software, okay. And certainly make sure you know that Access is one of those. And I don't expect you to memorize this name, but just be aware that we're going to be using that as well. So then there's the enterprise ones. And I'm not going to mention, there's lots and lots and lots of enterprise ones as well, but I'm just going to mention a couple that are really common. Big name that probably most of you have heard of, like if you're a Golden State Warriors fan, there's Oracle Arena. Okay, Oracle, big company. Okay, one of the big things they do is they make big database management systems. And then there's something called MySQL. That's another big one. And there are lots of other big ones, but I'm just going to mention these two. Talk about the difference between these. Oracle costs a lot of money. The company puts a lot of time and effort into making this big, robust database management system that can be shared by thousands of users to get access to the data, and it's just supposed to work really well. Okay, MySQL is free. MySQL free and open source. So both of these work well. Oracle, again, is because it gets a lot of money, it's a little bit more polished in some ways, but really they're both good alternatives. And some people wonder why you would pay a lot of money for one when you could just get the other one for free. And it's a very good question. In many cases, you wouldn't want to do that. But Oracle is a big company that offers also lots of support for their products as well. So that's a big part of sometimes buying software, is just spending the money so you have support people that you can call up. You can call up Oracle, you can have people come out and help you with your database. So those are two of the big ones. I'm not going to show you these because, for one, I don't own Oracle. And MySQL, I can get a copy of that free, but I don't have everything set up right now. But I am going to show you one online version that we might be using in this course. There's something called Oracle. Let's see if I can get to it. Not that. See if I can get back to it here. Okay, there's a picture. Hold on one second. Some background noise, so shut my office door. So this is a picture of what's called MySQL Workbench. And once again, this is getting at this idea that, so this is not MySQL or MySQL, this is some client that's being used to view data in a MySQL database. Okay, so it looks a lot like the other ones. Okay, so this would be, I don't know what all this data is, I just pulled up this picture, but this is actually some client application, some app used to view data that's stored in a MySQL or MySQL database. And then jump over here. This is called Oracle Live SQL. So Oracle produces this online version where you can get access to online Oracle databases through the cloud. And so again, you kind of see some similar things here. Some of these words you don't know yet, but this has got some tables, a bunch of tables about Olympic related things. So Olympic athletes, Olympic events, Olympic medals, who got medals, things like that. And just like the other databases we looked at, these would have things that would be relational, things that would be tied together. You have some data in this table that relates to people who got medals in this table, that type of thing. So if I open this up, see if I can get this to work real quick. We've got, oh, I don't know why this is, something is going wrong here because it's showing there are no columns. Let's see if I can get back one more time. Looks like I got kicked out somehow. Go back to the Olympic data. Let's try this again. There we go. So we've got information about what we're storing about the Olympic data. We've got, let's see if I can get to the actual bunch of other information about it. I'd actually have to run a query to show you the data. Let's do it. Yeah, there we go. Let's run this. This is an actual query that we can run to get all of this information from this particular table. So this is actual SQL that we're going to be talking a lot about. And I'm running that query right now, and here we go. I've gotten back a bunch of information. You can see I can scroll and scroll and scroll. We're still in the W. So this is some massive table that contains information about lots and lots of Olympic athletes. Okay, so there's the table, and here's how we can run queries. So this is, again, another one of these. We're kind of using the client application through a web browser now, but to access the data that's stored in that Oracle database. So if I jump back to kind of summarize this, okay, once again, we've got two different things. We've got the database management system that's being used to actually, it's the real entity, or it's the real code, the real application that's being used that actually manages all the data, does all the storing of it in the right way so we can get to it. Okay, so you've got that part of it. Okay, so that would be Oracle or MySQL. Okay, and then we have to have some app for viewing that. So I was just showing you the one that's called Oracle Live SQL. Okay, you got to have something you're using. It could even be from a web browser, but some app you're using that actually gets at that data and communicates with that database. And in this case, or in most cases, when you're talking about an enterprise database, this database management system over here is running, it's a server. Okay, so write that down. The last thing I'll bring up here. Okay, so oftentimes it's not even on the same computer as the app that you're using to view the data. Okay, so you have something that you're running that helps you, like that MySQL Workbench or that Oracle Live SQL, that helps you to view the data, but it's sending information to a database management system that's running somewhere else on another computer most of the time, on a server that's waiting for you to send a request and it's responding. So your app sends a request to the database management system, and the database management system sends a response back with whatever data you were looking for, or just some response to whatever you told it to do. Okay, so the enterprise versions of these things still have the same setup where you have the database management system itself, and then you've got some app for interacting with it. Okay, but in most of these cases, you're actually dealing with two different computers. Your computer you're working at, and some other server somewhere else that actually has all of the data in the database management system. All right, so hopefully that was fairly clear. You can certainly ask me questions about this on Monday when you come in if you didn't understand any of that. I hope you got somewhat of an idea now about just a little more idea of kind of what does a database management system look like, and what are the differences between some of these different database management systems.